And Swamiji, I have been teaching, as I told earlier, for about 4 decades now. Now, what had hurted me is, when I started my career as a medical teacher, there were just about 2 or 3 in a class of 250 or 275 who would have difficulty facing the examination or who would seek some kind of psychological counseling. Today, I find at least 60 to 70 out of a population of 200 seek counseling. Now, on one side, this is a good trend. People are coming out and trying to seek help. On the other side, I'm a little worried as to why the younger population is finding it difficult to face, as you rightly said, unfortunate experiences or unpleasant experiences of life. Failure is part of life. And why is it that they are not able to face such situations? The decrease in about 2 marks, causes so much of turmoil. Someone is taking drastic measures just because someone was not able to score this number of marks. Now, why is it happening? And what can we do for that?
Again, the answer is the same, Sudhaji. Here also, if we just look into this whole problem, it is essentially rooted in the ignorance of our own self, actually speaking. See, in our human personality, we have 2 dimensions. One is the so-called the physical dimension, and the other is the non-physical dimension. Today, the whole modern education system, for that matter, it only deals with the one side of the human personality, which is purely physical. Our children, they are given information about the so-called empirical sciences alone, the physical sciences alone. In our present education system and curriculum, if you just see, there is absolutely no place for the so-called non-physical dimension. Truly speaking, it is the irony of the modern civilization. We have completely adopted the Western mode of education in India today. See, it has got much to do with education itself. This problem is rooted in education. Ultimately, what is the true education? Is it only the education of the so-called the physical realm and the empirical sciences? That is the big question. It is in the absence of the knowledge of the other dimension that all these problems prop up. This problem which you have referred to, that present day children, they need counseling. Just imagine. I was shocked. Nowadays, the largest numbers of suicides are taking place in some of the finest institutions in the country, like IITs. IITs, which are the most prestigious institutions in the country, it is in these institutions that the number of suicides, and for what? Just because the student has failed to get a certain amount of mark, maybe 1 mark less, 2 marks less, and that student, that boy or a girl, a young boy or girl, puts an end to her life. Just imagine what a tragedy it is. This is owing to a lopsided view of life that everything on this side alone is important. They have not been taught about the importance of the other side of the human dimension. If they gain the knowledge of that dimension of the human personality, nothing of this side can shake them or derail their life. Once more, let me repeat this point. If our students get even a glimpse about that inner dimension about which today we have no knowledge, I'm talking about just a glimpse, Sudhaji, which every child right from the kindergarten should be introduced to. If that comes into the picture in our educational curriculum, let every boy and every girl grow up with the idea of what is inside, then none of all these ups and downs of life can derail that person's life. That is just like a ship which is perfectly anchored.
Fine, Swamiji, that's a wonderful tip. But then I would probe a little further and ask you for a tip. Now, these children are already in a system of curriculum.
Yeah.
So maybe, we cannot pull them out of that system. They are into it. So what kind of a tip would you suggest to these children to adapt so that they'll be able to maintain their resilience, they'll be able to grow better, they'll be able to inculcate nature into their lives?
Wonderful. In one word, my dear children, just one magical word, and that is that beautiful word called yoga. In this one word, yoga, the entire secret of life is captured. Subscribe to this ideology of yoga. It's not just an ideology, it is a way of life. Yoga is a way of life. Just recently I was addressing one of the institutions of sciences, and I said, you see, all our so-called, of course I'm slightly deviating from your point.
No problem.
Yeah. I strongly recommend, see, now I don't know, this is going to be published perhaps in the YouTubes and all. Let us create an opinion, a nationwide opinion. It is very important. All our institutes of technologies, prestigious institutes of management, etc., in that, instead of it being IIT, it should be IIYT. What do you mean by that? Instead of being Indian Institute of Technology, it should become Indian Institute of Yoga and Technology. Instead of just being IIM's, Indian Institute of Management, it should become Indian Institute of Yoga and Management. Yoga should precede everything else. When yoga comes into the human life, the entire picture changes. I very much wish and dream that this becomes a national opinion, and India should become a leader in this respect, that world will begin to imitate us. They should also begin to start and talk about their institutes as yoga and technology, not just technology. Mere technology is not going to save the humanity. Mere scientific skill is not going to save the human being. What is actually going to save the human being is this magical word called yoga. So that, my dear children, the answer to this Sudhaji's question is that you have to subscribe to the way of life called yoga. Now, what is yoga? That is a totally different subject. I don't know, we don't have time to go into it. Perhaps in some other session we can talk about it. The answer to all your problems, the panacea lies in this one word called yoga. Absence of focus, stress, tension, all kinds of negativities of the human mind, your sleeplessness, your depression, your moroseness, despondency, fear, anxiety, everything has got one Ramban Aushadham, which is yoga. Let this yoga come into the human life, the entire picture is bound to change.